So once you set up a vision for your company as a primary goal, meaning where you're heading, you found the mission, the purpose of your doing, right? It's time to go deeper and start talking numbers and detailed goals, right? But not as detailed as the very specific KPIs, but somewhere in between. So we're talking about some sort of elevator pitch that you should have for your company. Now, what is an elevator pitch, right? What's the purpose of that? So you now have a vision, which is something that you want to become. Great restaurant on your street or global company in Fortune 500, right? You have a mission, you know why you're doing that, improving people's life, improving people's safety, for example. Now, the purpose of the elevator pitch is to be able to explain your strategy in a very brief, in few sentences, to anybody that is interested, but mostly also to yourself, so that you know what your company is doing. What's your plan? What is your plan? So if you're running a restaurant, right, on a street in Beijing, and you want to become the best restaurant on the street, let's say there are many restaurants, it can be profitable business, right? Your purpose, your mission is to provide great food to great people, right? Which Beijingers, of course, are. Then the question is, what's going to be your elevator pitch? And in other words, what's going to be your condensed strategy in a few sentences? Tell me your plan, but don't be too long, just as brief as possible, because I don't have time. Why is this called elevator pitch, right? Well, it comes from investment field. Elevator pitch, the idea is that you are looking for an investor. You have a business plan, you have a strategy, you have a business plan, right? Now you want to raise money. The problem is that it's very difficult for you to reach the right investor. You know who's this guy, it's an angel investor, and you know he would be interested in your plan, but you cannot find him. He's too busy, right? And also he's receiving hundreds of plans like that with a request for fundings, right? So you're just wondering, how will I do that? How will I reach this guy? Luckily, one day you enter an elevator, and in that elevator, you will meet this person because he's there just by an accident, right? And the question is, how are you going to... Now, he's a captive audience, right? In marketing, we know, we call these guys captive audience. It's like when you're sitting on an airplane and reading this magazine that the airline gave to you and hoping that you will buy some products from them. That's called captive audience. You have no way to run. So that's a useful marketing term, I would say. So you have a captive audience. Now he's in the elevator, and unless he will jump out of the elevator, which is difficult to do, you have his absolute presence for maybe 2 minutes, right? Or maybe 1 minute, right? Now the question is, are you able to explain to him what your strategy is in those given 1 or 2 minutes? You need to be very short. You don't have time to show him 50 pages of your presentation. You don't have to find time to show him detailed PL, detailed ROI proposal, NPV calculation, or whatever it's like that. You have just few sentences, basically. You need to capture his attention. You need to persuade him that it's a good idea to invest into your business. In other words, you need to persuade him that your strategy is sound, right? Okay, so every business should have this elevator pitch, which basically, through that, you're able to explain your strategy to a complete stranger or to your employees or to yourself in just a few sentences. Now, this elevator pitch has few components. In other words, you should make sure that you have these things there, right? It should be objective. It should be competitive advantage. And it should be scope. Now let's go one by one. Well, in other words, you can have any sort of elevator pitch. You can start talking about the weather and how you would like to start your company and how you feel like frustrated, but then time runs out, right? And your person is now leaving the elevator and you're in bad luck. So what you want to do is to share all the relevant information about your strategy, about your plan, and it happens that these relevant information are mostly these 3 parts of your strategy. So, first of all, objective. So what do you want to achieve? It can be a financial objective, yeah. It can be a number, because this is something that the investor will pay the most attention to, right? So in 3 years' time, we want to have 1 million clients buying our product and generating 300,000 cash in profit. That would be your objective. Specific. It should be smart. Again, specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely, right? So you want to have there all these components. So yeah, the person you are now trying to persuade immediately knows that you have a clear goal, right? Most of the elevator pitches, obviously, objective is financial, but it can be any other objective as well. But most of them are financial. That is true. Okay, so you have an objective. Okay, then you have competitive advantage. You need to explain to your potential investor or someone who is interested in hearing about your strategy, what is your competitive advantage? Now, why? It's a crucial part of any sort of elevator pitch or any sort of strategy, because it's the crown jewel of your strategy, right? You need to be explained to any person, like to anyone who is interested, why should the customer choose you over competition? Now, forget about, most of the time, forget about explaining to the investor that there is no competition. Once investors hear such statement, they mostly walk away, because it means also, it might mean, the chances are that there might not be any market, right? Because, you know, if there's a market, the competition will probably enter. So if you claim that there's no competition, maybe the problem is that you don't know that there is a competition, or there's no market, there's no customers, right? So it might be best to say, yes, there is competition, but we are going to do what the competition is do better. Yeah, we're going to compete better than them. We're going to provide better service or better product. This is for you to decide where your competitive advantage lies in. Now, you can use this Porter's generic competitive advantage model, right? Where you say, we're going to be differentiated, we're going to be cost leader, or we're going to be niche leader, right? This is something that we will cover in some future video. Or you can just, randomly create your own idea of why the customers should come and buy from you instead of from someone else, right? So you can say, we will open the only Taiwanese restaurant on the street, right? And we will provide an excellent service provided only by senior waitresses, for example, right? So people will choose you over some other restaurant because you now have some competitive advantage, right? Or you'll be creating machine, but our machine will operate twice faster than that of a competition. So one thing that is this is the factor when the competitor comes, when the customer comes and is making the choice, chooses you over the competition. Maybe one thing, it might be many, but the key thing, that's maybe a better way to describe it, the key thing. If you don't have it, you have a problem, right? The investor will not be persuaded by your idea, right? So that's the elevator pitch. Now, and the last thing, for anyone to understand whether your business has any sort of potential, you should be able to illustrate who is going to be the customers of this business and where are you going to do your business. So in this particular case, maybe you want to open a Taiwanese restaurant. So maybe your customers will be white-collar workers, 30 to 50 years old, upper middle class, right? It's not the old people, it's not the young people, which might not have enough money. It's not the old people because maybe they have different tastes, more traditional tastes. It's these kind of people, right? So I need to know my scope. Who am I targeting, right? For the scope has who and where, right? So who we just decide is the customer, and where you want to compete, right? So in this it would be probably so who and where. You cannot see that. So one, where, and who. These two parts of the definition of scope should be there. So for example, I want to open a Taiwanese restaurant. I will focus mostly on these 30 to 50 years old, upper middle class, affluent customers, and I will open my restaurant here on this street. So I have who and where, right? Or totally different business plan. You can have an application, APP. My focus will be young ladies, 20 to 30 years old, and I will focus mostly on WeChat marketing, right? I will approach them through WeChat, and I will build my app within WeChat. That would be who and where. I need to know who are my customers and where I will compete. So again, a part of any robust strategy is something that we call elevator pitch. Elevator pitch, the idea is a condensed strategy, which is somewhere in the middle between those general goals and those very detailed goals. The purpose of the elevator pitch is to explain to anybody that might be interested, but also to yourself, what your strategy is in a few, as brief and as concise form as possible. It should comprise of things, of three elements. The objective, what I want to achieve, which should be smart, specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely. It can be a financial goal that in 2021 you want to have this many customers. Revenue or profit, that might be one thing. Second thing that your elevator pitch should have is some sort of competitive advantage. How do I do better than would I do better than competition? Yeah. And the third thing will be the scope. Who are my customers and where I want to compete.